Welcome to Between the Lines. We're in our 7th segment of an 8-week special on nuclear energy. And we've got the premier segment tonight, folks. We got the man we need to hear from. We need to talk about electricity and everything. One of the great leaders. He's doing a great job. He's just got there, but he's been there as an executive vice president for a while. So we're going to welcome the president and CEO of TVA, Don Moe, onto our set. Don, I forgot to tell you, but that one's looking at you and that one's looking at us. But just talk to me and let it go. We have a lot in common, but I mean, kind of, it's amazing. I mean, I've had guests on here from Pittsburgh, and I get so excited. And every once in a while, I'll get somebody from Notre Dame on here, or I'll talk about Notre Dame, have some connection to Notre Dame. But today, I get them both.
You get a twofer today.
I get a twofer today. Don grew up when he graduated from high school. I moved to Pittsburgh as a 28-year-old executive and worked there. And Don was there for a long time. We shared sports experiences. We found out we know common people that were the president of companies. You actually did labor work for one of my friends who was the president of a company. So
I was painting the outside of his building.
Yeah, you were, and that's the kind of things he would make you do. He's a tough manager. He was great. But anyway, we're going to talk tonight about TVA, and we're going to talk about some of the things. But first, tell us about growing up and everything you did. We talked about one thing, but your wife's from there too?
Oh, yeah. So, First of all, thank you, Alan.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for having me here today, and so excited to be able to talk about this. But, yeah, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you got to put the H on the end of Pittsburgh, a little bit different than the one in
Kansas. Yeah. Forget
that. And my wife and I both we went to the same high school together.
Which one was that?
That was Shaler High School in the North Hills of Pittsburgh.
The Titans.
The Fighting Titans. That's exactly right.
I
was a basketball player in high school, too. At least that's what I called it.
Okay, I understand.
And so we actually knew each other, but the school was so big, we were in different schools. We were 2 years apart. She graduated with my younger brother. But we met each other when we were at Penn State together. So my undergraduate degree is at Penn State.
And did you both know you were going to Penn State?
I was 2 years ahead, so I actually came back for...
there was always a chance she could have switched.
She could have. She was thinking about a couple other schools, but in our opinion, she chose wisely and luckily. And we met then, and we've been together ever since. That's 1985. I'm an old guy, right?
Well, that's funny because, growing up, and I was different down here because, when you my two favorite teams were Penn State and Notre Dame. I mean, Penn State was just, I will say it. I know there's a lot of controversy around the history of Penn State. No need to comment on it, but Joe Paterno was really a quality person with great stuff that in my youth, 30 years before in the controversy, that he actually, he held up a higher standard. So I liked him, and we'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Well, actually, my senior year in college was the year they last won the national championship.
I remember Miami, right?
Oh yeah,
it was a great game.
It was a great game. So I got to live that as a graduating senior. It was very exciting.
That is exciting because I remember sitting up off the farm up in Butler, PA, up outside of Pittsburgh, and watching that game, 14-3 or something.
Yeah, it was tight. It was a tight game.
Penn State always had good defense.
Yeah,
they played well.
That was a big part of it. And so, and growing up in Pittsburgh, my family, I had two uncles that was very close to, and they were both linemen for Duquesne Light. So the utility industry comes naturally to me. I kind of grew up around it. I got to see it. And my dad and my uncles, they were big Pitt fans. And there were two teams they hated the most, Alan, and that was Penn State and Notre Dame. So I always joke and say that I was a great disappointment to them on Saturdays, but they were okay later on.
Yeah, they got with it. That's the way it is, though. So many people in the cities grew up, and every Saturday afternoon you got one game nationwide.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It was just something that people liked, et cetera, et cetera. So you played. So you decided you were going to go to Penn State.
Yep.
What made you pick? I saw it was a nuclear engineering degree.
Well, yeah,
that was new in those days. Wasn't it?
Well, it was a small part of the college, but I went up there, and originally I was going to be an electrical engineer, and I started looking at the courses, and I didn't think I was real interested in that. Because I had a nuclear science class in high school. Very, very lucky to have that, right? And I saw they had nuclear engineering, and then I did a little bit. As much research as an 18-year-old does, right? And I saw that they had a good program up there, and so I decided, I had that in high school. I really liked it, and so I jumped into the nuclear engineering program at Penn State. And with a reactor on site,
They had a reactor in State College?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. A trigger reactor,
I thought
research
everything was cold
reactor.
and rainy.
No, well, that too, right?
I used to
Especially
stand
in the
rain to get
springtime.
into the games. Yeah.
It was amazing walking across campus with horizontal rain.
We're
hitting
talking
you.
We're talking about farmland, folks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Tailgating up there is a farm field.
Can't
right?
get out of the mud.
That's
I mean,
right.
so-
That's right. But I really was very lucky to get into the nuclear engineering program and then graduated there. And then, I've gone around the industry. I've almost 40 years in the industry. I started in nuclear, obviously,
Right.
as a nuclear engineer. My first plant site that I worked at, I was a reactor engineer at 3 Mile Island, Unit 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was after the accident.
Yes,
in
it was.
79. So
I was
you're-
there for the 10-year anniversary.
That's right. About 7 years after.
yeah.
Reactivated this year, right?
Yeah, well, actually, it's going to be called the Crane Clean Energy Center and data
smart.
centers, right? Microsoft working a deal with Constellation for that. So
Wow.
I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But that was the first plant I worked at. It was a great plant. And then I moved around the nuclear industry. I had spent 2 years there, and my girlfriend then, my wife now, was getting ready to graduate, and I had an opportunity to work back in Pittsburgh. I worked for Duquesne Light at Beaver Valley Power Station, and I thought I was going to retire from there, but opportunity knocked. And
Most
so,
people do in Pittsburgh. They never leave.
They
rarely
were
leave.
wondering if there was something wrong with me when I told them I was going to take a job in New Jersey. I went to work at
I would say that too.
PSE&G at the Salem Nuclear Generating Station. I licensed as a senior reactor operator there.
Yeah.
And then, there were plants that were in trouble with the NRC, and I was a fixer. So
okay.
I went to Salem to fix Salem, being part of the restart of that plant, and then Cook plant with AEP in Southwest Michigan was shut down by the NRC, and I'm a fixer, so
Okay.
I went in to try to help fix that, and then the next move a few years later, an opportunity came up at First Energy at Davis-Besse, and of course Davis-Besse had some issues and was working through a restart, and I was part of the team that restarted that plant. And I stayed at First Energy for about 16 years.
Yeah. Wow.
I reached nuclear escape velocity there, I like to say, right? I had an opportunity to go do other things outside of nuclear, it's not usually what happens. I got tapped on the shoulder, and they asked me if I wanted to run Ohio Edison and Penn Power.
Wow.
So I learned the wires business, which, by the way, from my two uncles that
Yeah, I
were
was getting ready
linemen,
to say, yeah, that was
they
natural.
got a great kick out of that,
Yeah.
right? And they were very proud.
Yeah. I can see that in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Crafts are so important there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Well,
it's off the
yeah,
charts.
without a doubt. Great part. We'll talk more about that later too. But yeah, so I had a chance to do that for a couple of years, and then they tapped me on the shoulder again and said, "We'd like you to learn about commodities and energy trading." And so I was commodities. The nuclear guy was buying coal and hedging power plant output for retail customers, selling our capacity into the PJM capacity markets, and so did that for a while, and then they said, well, we'd like you to run all the generation except for the nuclear fleet. So I'm touching everything else,
Yeah.
right? Everything else that
Pretty
we
good,
had.
diverse background.
Yeah, and then unfortunately we went through a bankruptcy,
Okay.
right? The natural gas was cheap, capacity markets and the competitive markets were broken, weren't really paying for the capacity that our nuclear units and our coal units were providing. So I learned a lot about things I never wanted to know. Didn't want to know about bankruptcy, but I learned about it, and I learned about paying attention and taking care of the people that really operate those plants and do everything we could. And so worked through that for a few years, and then had an opportunity to be the chief nuclear officer at NextEra. And
I saw that. You did.
Yeah. Well, I was down there, and I thought, I'll work here till I retire. And then I got a call that said, we think you'd be a really good fit at TVA. And I had always had an admiration for the public power model.
Yeah.
And so they said, we think you'd be a good chief operating officer at TVA, given the diverse background you have.
That's what I was just thinking, talking about everything, because TVA requires a little diverse management model.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it took me about a New York minute to say I was interested.
Yeah.
And so happy that I came.
Oh,
So I've been here almost 5 years now, coming up
Yeah.
on a little over 4, coming into my 5th year.
You got here 4 years ago. You obviously had a major role. nuclear is the future. I think most people would agree with that, and that's a very general statement. But when you look at it, so you bring this specified expertise that basically I'm not sure TVA had or has until, of course, then it hasn't been required. It hasn't been a demand on the system 30 years ago. But what surprised you the most? What challenges, experiences, based on all the tremendous experience you have in your leadership when you got to TVA? And I think Jeff was really highly regarded. I mean, my people that I know in Washington and everywhere else said he just did an outstanding job. But I'm not skilled enough to assess that. But I see what you bring in, and it's diversified, and you got that nuclear focus. So when you sat down and you looked at it, and I know you're not the boss at that time, but you're looking at that, and you got 6 or 8 months on the job. And I know your wife loves the weather here, so I don't even have to ask about
That's
that.
a fact.
Or your family.
Yeah.
But my father came down here in the Manhattan Project. I'm never leaving. He stayed out. I mean, I'm not going. I'm Rhode Island. I'm not doing it. So anyway, but what in kind of a summary, what would you say were the biggest surprises, shocks, blessings, whatever you want to call them?
Well, I'd say, even though you can look at it on paper,
right,
the size and the scope of the TVA job was daunting.
It's enormous.
When I from the outside looking in, I'm thinking, yeah, this is just another utility job.
Right.
Oh no, it's so much bigger, right? You've got the 7 states, you've got the river system. I mean, just the river system in and of itself, on top of generating electricity, transmitting it to customers, is a huge responsibility. I mean, we learned it during Helene, right?
Yeah.
How we
Define
can be
what a
challenged.
river system is.
So this is managing the waterways for navigation, flood control in the Tennessee River Basin, right?
Okay.
It's I think it's the 4th largest watershed in the United States.
Wow.
So it's not a small job, and it's more than just the dams that have power generation associated with them, which we're very blessed to have. It's almost 10% of our portfolio. Yeah. But it's also the flood control. I mean, one of the things you always know when you tell people that you work at TVA, the people that have houses on some of the reservoirs, especially in the Northeast, they want to talk to you about the operating guidelines, and they want the water to stay higher longer. But when we lower the water in the wintertime, it gives us the room for events like Helene.
Yeah.
So you get to explain that to them, too. But it's such a huge job when it comes to managing the rivers, generating electricity, serving customers. We've got a transmission system, 16,000 miles of transmission line.
We could say Franco Harris is the brand of the Steelers. That you understand what you're talking about. When we were growing up, I would say the first thing that came out of our mouths was Norris Dam.
Oh, it's
that
beautiful.
It's such a relic, and not a relic in a positive way. It's stood the test of time. It's gorgeous. We made a trip out there once a year. Melton Hill was closer, but we went to Norris because we liked it, and it was just so emotional for all of us to go out there and be. You're right. It's a beautiful place. Cross over the top into another county, et cetera. And so I think we managed 10 dams. Is that right? How many dams in the system?
Well, we've got more than 10 dams,
okay.
Right? We've got 9 power generating dams.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
And I think it's over 100 actual dams for flood control.
That's unbelievable.
109, 49. 49.
Wow. That's incredible. Think about that for a second. I mean, that's just, how do you even keep track of all that? I mean, I'm thinking as a layperson, but your river control is completely separate from some of the other things that you do.
Yeah, our river forecast center is in downtown Knoxville. It's in the West Tower in the Knoxville office complex, and our folks have the ability there to monitor, predict.
Technology? Through technology?
Incredible technology, right? Yeah. As well as some of the technicians out in the field that help us out as well. But like, for example, when Helene was hitting, right? All the nerve center was in downtown Knoxville, monitoring, modeling, seeing what the impacts were going to be, communicating with key stakeholders around the valley. And I mean, I've even had one of our former board members, Brian Nolan, was actually a board member for some of the local hospitals up in East
Wow.
Tennessee. And he got on the phone with us, and our team was able to tell him, okay, downstream of this dam, this is when it's going to crest. We're going to hold it there. He told me afterwards, he said, you have no idea, your people and the information they gave us helped us make the right decisions to save lives. And so that's when you do that, and you serve a region that way, it adds something to it. It's more than just a utility job, right? You feel a real sense of purpose, a real sense of giving to the community. And I mean, that's one of the things you asked me what surprised me about TVA. The public power model, intellectually you can understand it from the outside looking in, right. But understanding, I can talk to anybody in TVA. They know what the mission is. They understand that our job is to make life better for the people of Tennessee Valley every day.
And people that aren't from here and probably don't know the story, in Roosevelt's administration, there was just such widespread poverty and inability to develop anything in our area. And my father said for years, the best thing that ever happened politically in this area in 10 years is when they established TVA and they started creating control of the water. So there's a real, the Manhattan Project stuff comes 5, 6, 7 years later.
Right.
But there was a real role in stopping the flooding in East Tennessee. And TVA has a major part in history for that.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, think of some of the agricultural things that TVA did back in that day, too. Development of fertilizers to help make farming more productive, not only in the Tennessee Valley region, but across the nation, helping to feed the world. Those are some of the things that, oh, by the way, TVA was a big part of back in the day.
Yeah, no question. It was incredible. Let's draw a map of TVA. I mean, I understand it a little bit because of the political side of it, but where does TVA service begin and end? Well,
so you use the center of it as Tennessee, obviously. You got the Tennessee Valley.
But we don't serve all of Tennessee, do we? The West End's by somebody else?
No, we get all the way out to the Mississippi River.
Okay.
There may be a little portion of West Tennessee.
Okay, maybe that is correct. Now you mentioned it is a small portion.
Yeah, but we also serve 6 states surrounding it. So you've got Kentucky, you've got Virginia, you've got part of North Carolina and Georgia.
Mississippi and Alabama.
Northern Alabama.
Wow. I mean, that's you got a lot of citizens and a lot of electrical demand. I mean,
yeah. So while we are a wholesale,
job. I don't know of any utility in the country that has that kind of demand. I mean, well, it's concentrated in other areas. It's not as diverse.
Yeah, we're the largest public power provider. We are the 3rd largest nuclear operator. We partner, because we're a wholesale provider, with 153 local power companies, plus we have about 60 or so direct serve customers. But those folks serve 10 million plus residents in this 7-state region. So it's significant, the service area and the people that we touch every day.
You think of a large or Duquesne or in New York or some of the others, they've got a concentrated area to serve. I mean, most of those people serve a 100-mile by 50-mile radius, and you're all over the place, not counting the rivers. I mean, you've got all kinds of demands in all kinds of areas.
Right.
It seems like an enormous scope to me. I mean,
it is. And we're the balancing authority, right? So our transmission team runs the grid, maintains the reliability and deliverability to our customers. And, not everybody does that either, right? No. When I think about other places I've worked in merchant markets, it's PJM or it's MISO that handles the grid. We do that all. And, one of the things we're spending so much to invest in the future of our system. We have a new system operations center down in Meigs County near Chattanooga that's getting ready to come online.
That had to be a big boost for Meigs County.
My goodness.
I've been there enough time.
And to see it is a state-of-the-art facility, and it's going to give us the capability to see further into the distribution system, partnering with the local power companies. It's going to save money on fuel because we'll be able to dispatch more efficiently. Saves customers money, but it's going to be just a step change in our ability to control the grid and maintain reliability for our customers.
We're going to talk a little bit about TVA's efficiency and energy has really enabled us, they call it cheap electricity. Nothing's cheap, but to be efficient in this area, and we'll talk about it. Channel, let's take a break.
America runs on power, and for nuclear power, we need enriched uranium, but almost all of it comes from overseas. In 2019, the Trump administration took action, working with Centrus to build the first new American-owned uranium enrichment plant in 70 years. And now, Centrus is ready to expand to meet our nuclear power and military needs, free from dependence on foreign suppliers. Centrus, American technology built by American workers.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Vision, values, and commitments.
Extraordinary teams building inspiring projects.
We live for a challenge.
We do the right thing.
Exercise the highest level of integrity and ethics.
Create a positive legacy.
Through purposeful
and sustainable projects.
We take care of each other.
Safety and well-being above all.
Treat each other with the utmost respect. We succeed together.
Embrace our differences.
Seek diverse views.
And listen to understand.
Foster a deep sense of belonging.
We build trust. Develop lasting one-team relationships.
With our colleagues, customers, and partners.
Hold ourselves accountable.
To deliver excellence.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
This is Joe Heckman, President of Waste Management at Energy Solutions. Nuclear power is on the rise. Energy Solutions is part of this transition and part of the solution, delivering comprehensive services and assets that support the entire nuclear life cycle. Energy Solutions is protecting and preserving the environment for generations to come.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance technologies and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear, environmental, and clean energy fields.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're talking with Don Moll, President and CEO of TVA, and learning stuff every time. Listen, I just find the whole challenge to be overwhelming. As a CEO and as a business manager, looking at stuff as I have in the past for other people, you look at that, and the more I can confine that, label that, and manage that, the easier my job is. I don't know how you even begin to approach the massive responsibilities of TVA. Let me put it in a layman's terms. How does TVA manage enough efficiency to keep electric prices so low?
Yeah, so a big part of that, and it's actually written into the TVA Act. We have a least cost planning mandate in the TVA Act. But let me step back even a little bit further, right? So first of all, you don't deliver the way we deliver without a great team.
Absolutely.
Without a great team. And that's especially on days like today when it's high temperatures, high air conditioning, high load. Our folks in the field are doing just an incredible job right now, making sure we deliver for our customers. And it's 24/7. There's no
days
pause
off
button.
now.
Yeah, people really love their electricity, especially when it's really hot or really cold outside.
Absolutely.
So you got to have a great team. And that starts with the folks in the field, but it leads up to the leadership as well, setting the right direction, the right tone. And I've had a chance to be here for 4 years and get to know the organization, get to know the leadership very well, and really set a strong leadership team around my table. That helps.
And I think it's gotten better. Bill tell you, I'm pretty outspoken. I'll tell the truth. But, I think it's gotten better in the last 3 or 4 years. I think we've had less I mean, everybody has outages. This is part of it. It's 100 degrees for a week, you're in trouble. You know, you got to do the best you can to manage it. But I don't think we've had any problems in my area, Oak Ridge. I just think it's been well done. I don't know. I don't know how you produce it. I guess my question, better said, is why can't they get better rates in the Northeast? Maybe I reverse the question.
So I'll take it back to the public power model. And like I told you, it ties into the statutory requirement for least cost planning. But one of the things that really drew me to TVA is I don't have shareholders to answer to.
Right.
I have stakeholders, right? We don't have to pay dividends to shareholders.
Right.
So whatever we make in our electricity sales, and by the way, that's we don't get federal funding. While we're a federal corporation owned by the federal government, we don't get any appropriations.
No,
right?
it's not on the only thing you would be entitled to and have got maybe some grants for some nuclear stuff, right?
Yeah, we're working on that.
We're
working on that.
But that's investments in the future, shared investments. But your day-to-day operations, you generate all of that. That's
exactly right. No tax dollars associated whatsoever.
That's outstanding.
Right. Yeah. And so how do we keep our rates so low? It's because what we make, we put back into the plants, or we work towards.
I get it.
You know, it goes back into the system.
They're limited in their capital investment and their ability to improve efficiencies because they have to pay out profits, dividends, whatever, and that board will determine what they want to do. And if they don't make those proper reinvestments, electricity goes up.
Yeah, well, and we, because we have that least cost planning mandate, focus on finding the right solution that thinks about the customers and what their end state, what their bill is going to be. We don't go about choosing higher cost assets. Typically, the investor-owned utilities won't do that either. They have a public service commission to keep them in control, right? But for us, it stays close to that mission. Least cost planning is the guiding principle in how we choose which assets we're going to build, and that helps keep rates low. And when you compare us, for example, to peer utilities that are in, especially regional peer utilities, our equivalent retail rates are less than 80% of our peers right now, and we're in the top quartile. We're lower cost on industrial rates than 95% of our peers. That helps us in one of our other missions, which is economic development. Drawing people here, drawing businesses here, is certainly easier to do when you've got a low price and high reliability.
And that's exactly right. And what we see, and of course that's more in my background, economic development, is the fact that you can't have an Orano in East Tennessee without a TVA in East Tennessee to start, and or many other capacities. I mean, I think it's there. I'm more concerned personally. I think that asset is there, and it has been for a long time. But I think probably TVA and the availability and the capacity of electricity and their ability to manage it is probably contributing more to economic development in this region than any one thing. I'm sitting at a table with these guys, and I go, look, we're going to be able to hold our costs down. We're going to be able to do this. And that can be done without your efficiencies and the job you guys do.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the Big Five a little bit. I'm worried about they go throw a data center up here and they throw a data center up here, and the number is one data center is the same as 50,000 homes. I mean, you start to, how do you meet that demand?
It's staggering, you know, and we have an obligation to serve. So the answer is not no, but it's yes if or yes when.
Yeah.
Managing, like, for example, if you have someone that wants to come in and they've got a load they want to put on your system of 1,000 megawatts, think about that.
Yeah.
That's a large-scale reactor that you need to have on your system. So you find the ways to get them off of peaks. You work with them to use demand response. You know, and you really think about, what do I need to build on the systems? And the tough part right now, the Big Five, across the country right now, there's not a lot of extra capacity out there. In fact, I don't think there's any extra capacity. So everyone they go
What's
to
the
talk
attraction
to,
of Texas? Everybody's going to Texas.
Well, Texas,
besides the taxes and all that stuff. And
yeah,
development.
I was going to say taxes, right?
Very
Very similar to Tennessee, right? But they're really looking for availability of power.
That's right.
And so it's how soon can I get that power? Sometimes it's limited by transmission build.
Right.
Sometimes it's limited by generation on the system to maintain enough operating reserves to keep reliability. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. And so that's why we say yes if and yes when. Can we get you off the peak? Can we find a way to build to you in the time frame that you're looking for? And I would want to give a shout out to our economic development team. You know, it's been decades. I think it's almost 19 years that they've been recognized as best in class by Site Selection magazine for economic development. That's a huge advantage for the Tennessee Valley.
And what do they do?
They find ways to work with the different states,
okay.
Find incentives, find ways to provide investment credits for these teams, these companies that are coming in.
So they actually get involved. Okay,
Yeah.
Site selection.
They are roll up the sleeves, boots on the ground.
So they just don't show
ways.
up with a light bulb when the thing opens the doors. They got to help plan on how much we're going to get. We'll get this to you. We'll get this, but we would rather this 500 acres be here. We have a better chance they get in the middle of the game.
Part of it is really understanding what the customer needs, and helping them shape their ask, and also being a great interface with our transmission team, understanding from a system planning standpoint where are some of the locations that would be, best able to accommodate the load that these folks have coming in.
Let's talk nuclear for a second.
Sure.
Because that's obviously your background, and that's what you do. And you were brought in, and I'm sure part of that recruitment and part of that leadership plan was, we all know we're going that direction. Where's TVA in the nuclear world now? I was told by Washington Congressman, everybody knows who that is, who can figure out that you're up to about 49% of usage in providing provided by nuclear.
Yeah, that's the energy usage, and it'll be plus or minus that 49.
It's still the
50.
biggest. Still the biggest in the group, right?
It from a capacity standpoint, it's about 40% of our capacity, and then we have another 10% hydro. But let's go back to nuclear.
Go back.
So nuclear, there's a couple of ways to think about our nuclear fleet. First of all, we're the third largest, right, in the country. And we want to keep all those assets that we have on the ground right now as long as we possibly can. So our team is working through license extensions going from 60 to 80 years plant life. Give us an extra 20 years on each one of those plants because they're in great shape. And they're incredible assets and so
the
hard to
NRC would
replace.
make that decision?
Yeah, there's a normal process to go through it. We wouldn't be the first.
No. Okay.
And actually, we're keeping our options open as well. As an industry, the nuclear industry is looking at, well, after we go to 80, is it possible to go to 100 years?
Right.
And, I mean, it's a technical question, but it's solvable. And so we're going to keep our eyes on that as well because these assets are so important to us. So keep what we have longer. We have a nuclear life extension in our financial plan, investing close to over $6.5 billion over the next 20 years towards making sure that those assets still operate highly reliably and efficiently and effectively and safely for that extra 20 years.
So we commit 6.5 to life extension. And new development, what do we do?
So we've got $350 million set aside on new development for the small modular reactor project at Clinch River, and so part of that has been really going through the early site permit, getting our construction permit application pulled together, working with a technology collaboration agreement between TVA, Synthos Green Energy, Ontario Power Generation, and GE Vernova, who is the developer, the original equipment manufacturer. And we've been able to submit that construction permit application. So right now, our application for a BWRX 300 is in the hands of the NRC. There are two parts of that application. There's an environmental report, and then there's the overall construction permit application. Our environmental report has been accepted by the NRC, and that sounds kind of simple.
I know.
That sounds simple.
I've done development. That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Having it accepted tells us that's a high-quality application. The NRC is satisfied with the information that they have, and they're ready to go into the
environmental impact and all that.
And they're in the process of evaluating our construction permit application right now. We're tracking towards potential approval in that kind of December of 2026 timeframe. That's 18 months. Yeah. And the NRC has been a great partner in working with us, working with our team very proactively, so they're ready to get that application.
And I think from what I've heard and what I've worked with, there is a very sensitive awareness that we got to go. We got to go, and that we need to get moving. We need to get things done. And I applaud the NRC for picking up their space a little bit. And I give credit to TVA, and I give credit to you. I don't know a lot of the other people that I've spoken with, but some other people. But basically, you understand the expediency of all this, that you're trying your best to do things as fast and as safely and efficiently as possible.
That's a fact.
But there's a lot of players.
Well, and there's another part of it too, right? So we're really going to be first of a kind in the U.S. as if the timeline continues down this path. And again, I take it back to least cost planning. I can't put that cost on our ratepayers.
That's right.
Right? So we're looking for partners, and we're actively looking for partners. We put in for the DOE grant of up to $800 million towards development of Gen 3 Plus, they call it. So it's like this BWRX 300 design, small modular reactor, but light water reactor, similar to the designs we have today. Uses the same fuel we have at Browns Ferry, right? So there's no nuclear fuel challenge there. We've put in for that. We're looking for investment partners. A lot of the big five, right? I won't say specific names, but a lot of the big five are very interested in highly reliable zero carbon generation to back up and to power their data centers. And so seeing who is really interested in that kind of a bespoke zero carbon, highly reliable power output and willing to pay a premium for that so that we can develop it, we can start this industry for the United States, but not put that cost on our ratepayers.
But you cannot do legally anyway.
Well, we have to stay true to the least cost management.
The cost. I got it. I understand that. Okay. So where do you see TVA? Where do you see the nuclear part of the program contributing? Where do you see it in 10 or 20 years? How's it going to evolve if things go as planned?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll go back to the existing fleet that I talked about earlier. I see us continuing to invest in those over this next 20 years. We'll get extra output from some of those plants as well. We'll extend their life, and that'll be still the kind of one of the foundational parts of our diverse generating fleet. We'll continue to develop, and since I've become CEO, one of the things I like to tell people is we're opening the aperture on new nuclear development. It's not just one design. We're certainly excited and making progress on the BWRX 300, but we're keeping our eye on Gen 4 reactors. Kairos, for example, over in Oak Ridge, pouring safety-related concrete for their Hermes 2 prototype. We've been working very closely with them. We're very encouraged by the design and the progress that they're making. We're still talking about the potential for gigawatt scale, the AP1000s type reactors, down at some of our sites that, in northern Alabama.
I understand.
There are potentials there, and it all comes down to, can we find the right financial structure that makes sense for TVA's customers and keeps us in line? Yeah,
and I think it's, from the way I understand it, you don't have a lot of the speculative freedoms that some mega investors or private investors might have. I think you have to keep to the true providing electricity for homeowners, providing this for business. And I was talking to some people locally about this, but apparently the demand and the build in Tennessee and Alabama is going up exponentially.
Yeah, 3 times the national average. So part of it is economic development and these large loads coming in. It's interesting how it's evolved, right? So when I first got here, electric vehicles and battery plants were a huge influx, and data centers were only kind of talked about on the sideline. And that's kind of rationalized as the demand for EVs has slowed a bit. Hasn't gone away, it's just rationalized, slowed down a bit. And then the data centers have made up all that difference and then some, because they're looking for the capacity. But that's not all there is. I mean, since the pandemic and the years since, there's a lot of folks who've realized living in the Tennessee Valley is really great. Great place to live, work, and play.
Yeah, and a lot of that's due to TVA and people that have provided that lifestyle. I went around to all these counties in my political work. I went around to all these counties, and I would say, what's changed? I go see the election registrars in every county, Nashville. What's changed? He said, the migration of people, Alan. I've got 10% more registered voters than I had 2 years ago. And it's just massive. And they're building homes and expanding. Well, that puts more pressure on you.
Yeah, and one of the things you learn as you go through the business is different types of load have different characteristics. So residential load is very weather sensitive. It's heating and air conditioning, right? And so when you have a really hot day, or more than anything, a really cold day, that load continues to go up because people have their heating and ventilation systems running to keep themselves comfortable, and we've got to meet that demand.
Is 0 tougher than 100?
I believe,
I'm just picking numbers.
Based on my experience, cold weather is tougher than warm weather, and there's kind of a technical reason for that, right? Your air conditioner can only run so long, but you can keep on plugging in electric heaters until you run out of plugs, right? And so, and especially, we have a lot of electric heat pumps in the Tennessee Valley region, and when they get down to that resistive heating that kicks on with auxiliary heating, that is very energy inefficient and very, very electric intensive.
How many homes, residential homes, does TVA serve? Do you have any number?
Well,
roughly?
I don't have a rough number off the top of my head. That's
millions.
Clearly.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, every challenge that keeps coming and presenting itself, it seems like you guys have a good strategy to deal with it. And I want to go over, when we get back from break, I'm going to go over some of the things that TVA's contributed in the last 5 years that are pretty amazing. Take us away, Chandler. Doing good.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance technologies and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear, environmental, and clean energy fields.
Vision, values, and commitments.
Extraordinary teams building inspiring projects.
We live for a challenge.
We do the right thing.
Exercise the highest level of integrity and ethics.
Create a positive legacy
through purposeful
and sustainable projects.
We take care of each other.
Safety and well-being above all.
Treat each other with the utmost respect.
We succeed together.
Embrace our differences.
Seek diverse views.
And listen to understand.
Foster a deep sense of belonging.
We build trust. Develop lasting one-team relationships
with our colleagues, customers, and partners.
Hold ourselves accountable
to deliver excellence.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
This is Joe Heckman, President of Waste Management at Energy Solutions. Nuclear power is on the rise. Energy Solutions is part of this transition and part of the solution, delivering comprehensive services and assets that support the entire nuclear life cycle. Energy Solutions is protecting and preserving the environment for generations to come.
America runs on power, and for nuclear power, we need enriched uranium, but almost all of it comes from overseas. In 2019, the Trump administration took action, working with Centrus to build the first new American-owned uranium enrichment plant in 70 years. And now, Centrus is ready to expand to meet our nuclear power and military needs, free from dependence on foreign suppliers. Centrus, American technology built by American workers.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're talking to Don Mull, TVA, and I tell you, it's impressive. I really didn't realize how much they have to do with riverbeds, watersheds, whatever the words are, and everything outside. They just don't plug in the plug and electricity comes. It's a little more in depth than that, and they have a great challenge, and they've made a lot of progress. They're doing a lot of good things, and we don't see it a lot in our homes and our things because all of this work and all of this teamwork. We have to take a minute and applaud that. I think that's something we do. I want to go back to the reservoirs and the water where you're saving water at critical times. You know, we have a dam. We have water on top where the lake is. Comes through the dam, goes in the rivers. How do you store water?
Yeah. So what our teams do, we have reservoir operating guides, and there's winter pool and summer pool, and those elevations are very different. And especially for the folks that live around there, they know, especially up in the Northeast and the tributaries. And so as we get to the end of the summertime, summer pool, we keep it high for recreation and so that we can flow water downstream if we need some extra cooling at some of our plants further down, right? But then as we get closer to the winter, we start drawing it down. And what that does is makes room in those reservoirs to store water when we have the wintertime, when it's raining, when we have snow. Rarely here, but we do have it, right? Yeah. And so that gives us the room to hold that water back, manage the flow, flood control downstream, and also that gives us our fuel. So you're holding the water back so we don't add water to the rainfall and the other stuff that may overflood the rivers and stuff. We manage the rivers so that we have to maintain navigation, right? So there are certain levels that we have to maintain downstream as well, because there's so much commerce that goes up and down the Tennessee River. Right? I think it's about $8 billion a year in commerce. So that's all part of what we do too. I hear Chuck talk all the time about the Chickamauga Lock. Is that in your world? No, well, that's Army Corps. It's in our world. It's our asset. That's on the river, but that's the Army Corps. But that's the only thing I've ever really. I've been down it a few times when I was younger, but I didn't really understand the management of it all. You're right, that is Army Corps. TVA has invested $8 million to help 323 schools. Yeah, that's amazing. And that, how does that help a school? What do they do? You get a grant, or you help them, or you pair with somebody? So it's typically a STEM grant that goes to these schools. It helps build their science, technology, engineering, mathematics curriculum, and you know, it's part of our engagement with the communities, and there's an economic development part of that. You know, where you're really helping foster the futures of some of these students, and then they can become a part of the economy, the ecosystem of our footprint. 80% of the people around the country are paying higher utility rates than TVA customers, and 95% of the businesses are paying higher rates. That's how efficient and how well run TVA is and what they're doing and making that available. But people don't understand this is, if I'm sitting down doing a spreadsheet, if I can't rely on that, it's hard for me to project what I'm going to do with my company or my plant over the next 5 years. And they've come to where they just really people have come to depend on it, count on it. Well, you know, Alan, one of the other things, I mean, I grew up a nuke, right? Right. And the nuclear industry is all about a continuous improvement mindset. And so is TVA, right? And so we're going through an enterprise transformation right now. We've done some organizational redesign. We're thinking about what our organization needs to look like for the next decade. But we're also finding ways to be as lean as we possibly can and save so that we can continue to provide high value, low cost for our customers. You know, we hear a lot about DOGE and the federal government and everything else, and you're a contained, you know, you're a public-private, which we've discussed, that you have to manage your business effectively. No help from the federal government, so not a part of that. But I have heard from people internally that you have gone out of your way in the last 6 months, still involved probably, to streamline hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion, out of your budget to make your operating. That's about as conservative and as fiscally reliable as anybody could get. And I know you're doing a lot of that, streamlining, you know, different people. And you're to be applauded for that. I mean, a lot of companies aren't doing that. And that makes it, and I know where you're doing it so you can meet the demands and the models of the future and not be over budget. I understand how it works, but I think you're to be applauded for taking that mindset. Tell me about the new nuclear renaissance. We're hearing that everywhere. What do you think about that? Yeah. So when you think about, well, just like TVA, I mean, we're seeing it a little bit more with the load growth that we have in front of us and the demand. And, energy security really is national security now as AI becomes a bigger part of the conversation, right? You can only build so much of one resource before you have to start thinking about what other kind of fuel can I use to still meet that load, meet that need. So, for example, you can only build so much natural gas generation before all of a sudden you've got a lot of your risk in generation on that gas pipeline.
Okay.
You need large loads to be served, and nuclear is going to have to be part of that solution. So you still maintain a diverse portfolio of generation, balances your risk, keeps your costs reasonable, high reliability, dispatchable generation from nuclear. It's got to be part of the answer. Really has to be. Southern has been successful in building the Vogtle units, so there's a template there for the AP1000s. Yeah. The plants are running very well, right? Because it's got 50 years of operating experience built into it to refine that design, and it's no different than the BWR X300. The BWR is boiling water reactor. X is the Roman numeral 10 because it's the 10th generation of that boiling water reactor design, and 300 is how many megawatts of output it is. So it's got 50-plus years of operating experience and refinements in its operational capability built into it.
I would be remiss. I would have everybody in Anderson County say, why didn't you do this? Let's talk about Bull Run for 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure. I mean, so Bull Run, decommission, just give me the history or, give me the next whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, so Bull Run shut down a couple years ago, and so we looked at the asset and we thought about the load growth that we have. And one of the things that's so important in maintaining stability on the grid is inertia. And so I'm going to get a little nerdy on you.
That's okay.
But it's big metal spinning, right? And so what that does is when load changes on the system, that big metal spinning gives you the ability to absorb some of those movements in voltage and frequency.
Okay.
One way to do that is to repurpose those generators at Bull Run, and we call them synchronous condensers. So they're like motors that spin. They don't give you megawatts on the system, but they maintain stability.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about delivering reliable and resilient power to our customers, that's a big part of it. So we're taking those two generators and we're converting those to synchronous condensers.
Will they still be there or somewhere else?
They'll still be there. It's the same generators that we had, right? And so we'll have some folks working there.
Just a redirection of what we're doing.
That's taking advantage of the assets that we have on the ground and wringing every bit of life out of them. We're also we're working very closely with Type 1 Fusion there. I told them stay away from my synchronous condensers, but on the other side of the turbine building, they're working on their Stellarator fusion design.
Right.
Now, it sounds kind of science fiction-y. I'm telling you, I think things that were science fiction in the past are science fact today.
Yep.
And so TVA staying engaged with Type 1 Fusion and their designs, and they're going to be.
It's not a 10-year solution, but it probably is a 20 or 30-year solution.
I would tell you their CEO is going to tell you it's 10-year.
Yeah.
But hey, look.
It's definitely not 4. Everything's 4 today, right?
Yeah, everything's 4 today. But in 4 years, we need to continue the build. We have just so you know. I mean, you talked about how big the system is and how the demand is on us. We've got 6,200 megawatts of generation planned and 3,750 of it being built. So, yeah, synchronous condensers at Bull Run, very important. Kingston. We've got an energy complex at Kingston going in, new gas plants, combined cycle, simple cycle CTs, solar and batteries, backing up in case we have to shut down the Kingston coal plants. We're looking at our coal plants again, too. We have to reevaluate their lifetime because of the load we're seeing. And, and there are a couple of our coal plants. We're finishing up our coal end-of-life asset study to determine can we extend the life of, for example, Shawnee and Gallatin.
Sure.
So we've got a lot going on to maintain the assets we have on the ground, to grow to meet this demand, and to think about the future beyond 4 years for small modular reactors and new technology.
And it's in any business. Things change. I mean, you know, if you've got different demands and different things, and you have infrastructure and capital investment that's worked for 40 years, probably not going to sustain it without new developments or modifications. Right. And it seems like you're meeting those challenges and doing those things. So, and that's one thing. So, where does TVA make the most gains? The biggest demands on you, I think, are going to be the AI box world. If they come in and they're going to, you know, I mean, you know, Ronald's a different situation and those things, but the AIs, they put a box up a lot quicker than you can build.
They do. It's really about that front-end partnership with them and understanding their needs, their timelines, how interruptible can they be, right? And how we can serve them best and how we can move them off those peaks. When you think about a hot day like today, or a really, really cold day like in January where we set a record peak demand. Being able to say to these kind of customers, can you curtail for 80 hours a year, 8 hours a year, whatever it is, at those most critical peak times? And if you can, it's easier for us to say, yeah, come on onto the system sooner rather than later when we have to build out the system to support it.
Yeah, I mean, in my house, my wife has had some long-term COVID. She likes it cold, 65, 64, and it gets up to 95, and I know how it works. And so she gets out the door, and I'll turn it up to 70. Don't tell her that.
We appreciate you.
We tell you 70, yeah. And then when she comes back at 4:30, I turn it back down to 67. But at least we buy a little time there but it's a 20-year-old system. I mean, it's a 3.5-ton compressor, can only do so much, right? But I mean, that's another thing. TVA's done such an efficient job that I don't think I can remember any blackouts at all here in several years.
Well,
you're doing a great job.
It's been several years. We learned a lot during Winter Storm Elliott, right? Yeah. And we've been able to upgrade the designs on our plants so that they can handle that kind of weather that we're seeing. And we've been able to deliver during really, really cold times with higher loads. As I said, you know, last January we set a record for the highest load on the TVA system in its history, and it was during some really cold weather, similar to what we saw then. So we're challenging our team every year to get better and better, and that's the goal.
I think one of the things that I'm sitting there thinking back to the conversation that makes you such an effective leader, and I'm going to make that statement, an effective leader, is I keep thinking back to Duquesne Electric. I'm looking at the building, and then I'm back in Pittsburgh, and I'm thinking about Jersey, and I'm thinking about the other things. I have been in charge of some projects, and the more background I had in different areas, the better it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you see things in developing and strategy. You're sitting around the table, and you think back to something you had to deal with 20 years ago.
It gives me a lot to draw on.
That's right.
A lot of reserves, a lot of things where I can ask a question to my team. By the way, again, can't say enough about how great my team is.
Yes.
But I get to ask the question that may spur them to understand a different angle. And so that's something I think I bring to the table.
And that would not happen if you had not had that diversified management experience in your past.
That's true.
Or gone to the Mendoza School of Graduate
of course.
Of Notre Dame.
Of course.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I think I'm just trying to think out loud, but I think trying to reflect over everything. I think that TVA, I can't find any loops in the hole. I think they're lucky to have you. I will say this. I get a lot of CEOs on here, and I get mixed opinions in the community and different people. General public doesn't know much about TVA management at the high end. But I will say that professionals in the field that I've talked to are really happy. And let's think, you haven't been there 30 years. You're not part of the country club.
No.
You're somebody who came on to do a specific job and to assume the leadership. And I would say maybe 7, 8, 9 management. Everybody is excited about you being in charge.
Wow.
And I don't know what that means. I mean, I don't think you're passing out candy bars or anything. No. So, I mean, I think they think that you have a unique skill set, especially the nuclear people I know. And listen, the challenges are going to get tougher and tougher.
Well, it's very flattering.
And you're in Pittsburgh, right?
Well,
I got confidence in that. You may meet the challenge, right? I mean, people don't understand that if you're not from there. It's just a different. I mean, and I was only there short, but I was ingrained in the community, and it's just great. I'm really happy you came on the show and talked to us.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. This has been great. Aside from getting to go down memory lane on Pittsburgh stuff with you, it's great to talk about TVA and what we do, and and really share.
And I saw Pittsburgh transition from a steel town, J&L and McCullough, all the way into a modern economic kind of challenge position. There's some similarities in all that. I
Definitely.
think. And you're doing a great job. 30 seconds. Okay. Anything you want to say?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity today.
I'm glad we did it.
I'm happy I get a chance to brag on my team delivering, and it's really all about.
It is a good team.
TVA meeting the mission, and that's what everyone's aligned with.
Yeah, it is. It's great. TVA, I can't imagine East Tennessee or anywhere else without the TVA and the computer. I really appreciate it. Go Penguins.
Excellent.
See you guys. Thank you
Thanks.
for watching.
I think so. What do you think?